My name is Dr. Rick Seguil.
And action. Hey, Jay had a... This is Kirk, man. And action. Hey everyone, it's Dr. Rick, and today's question comes from Francesco. Francesco has a question about whether, because of his H. pylori, that we potentially will be treating with 3 different antibiotics and a proton pump inhibitor, 4 different prescription medicines, all in 10 days. Nasty, but that's how fastidious this H. pylori bacteria is. For those of you who don't know, H. pylori sits in the stomach, and it just does not allow an ulcer to heal up. And it gives you a whole bunch of bloating and diarrhea and a whole bunch of other things. But if this is the first time you're finding me, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and the alert button to find out when I do new videos for you or Francesco. I like just saying Francesco. So do we need probiotics? Yes, we do. In fact, your tax dollars proved it, because in, I think it was 2008, there was National Institute of Health had started the Human Microbiome Project. Forgive me if it wasn't 2008, and great information on trying to DNA analyze every bacteria that's in most people. Now, there's a whole host of different, in fact, that's what we are, we're hosts. We're hosts to about 1,000 different species of bacteria. And those bacteria live in our gut for life. Now, when you take an antibiotic, you're going to destroy some of them, and the strongest ones will survive, but usually the strongest ones are the nastiest ones. So if you have a few that survive and they're nasty, and they don't have any competition, they will double and give you just a whole field of bad bacteria. So thus it was a nice idea to do this. And to tell you the perspective of how much this cost, this is it's from a different paper, but this is how much it costs. Look at that. Over the course of 2007 to 2016, that's close to $1 billion of our tax dollars to find out what kind of bacteria is good. Now, you can have, not with a regular lab, but you can have fancy labs take your stool, grow it out to see what kind of bacteria you have. I think it's important. It's almost like a blueprint for what's in your guts. But there's probably subtle changes here and there. However, as far as I know, it's not paid for by insurance. So the most that a standard lab will do is ovum parasites, standard bacterial culture to see if anything nasty grows out, a dominant species, and then maybe C. diff and H. pylori. So I'll do a video on H. pylori soon, but that's that stomach bacteria I was talking about. But we have bacteria that inhabit our gut, mostly the colon, hopefully not the small intestine. Check out my videos on leaky gut 1, 2, and 3. In fact, I'll probably call this one leaky gut 4 because I think it involves a lot of probiotic. But we get our first inhabitation exposure when we latch onto mom's breast after leaving the vaginal canal. So this is a good one as far as what to do with pediatrics. And those moms who don't do breastfeeding, it's a shame because there's a lot of good antibodies that are transferred over in breast milk. But there are some bacteria that get into the mouth and nose through the vaginal canal, so that's cool. Sometimes there was thoughts when moms would have to have a cesarean section that the kids would be missing the bacteria that you get exposed to in the vagina. So if you pass through the vagina, cool. If you latch onto mom's breast, cool. Now, if you're older, you certainly can't do that stuff. So what do? We try to get it in our food sources. This is my son's yogurt, and it's okay. I mean, I like Blue Diamond, the milk, non-sweetened, maybe vanilla flavored, but that because of the low sugar content in the milk. This one, unfortunately, has 13 grams, I believe, which is a lot. The milk, I believe, has 4. So for my plant-based protein that I take at night, or in the daytime, sorry, I take that, or flax. But I don't want him to take cow milk. American cow milk, forget it. I'll explain that in a second. But if you're gonna get yogurt or have your yogurt, that's fine. I got this from Target. Yogurt has about 70,000 bacteria, wide variety, but that's pasteurized. And we don't know I'm not sure if the bacteria are there before the pasteurization or after the pasteurization, but if it's before the pasteurization, then you potentially can kill that 70,000 and bring that number down even further. 70,000 sounds like a lot, like a big football stadium, but if your bacteria in the yogurt that you eat has to go through the stomach and the stomach has a lot of acid in it, you're going to kill potentially all that bacteria and then nothing will pass through. Thus, the reason why I'd probably suggest more bacteria. So this is now Food Probiotic. This is a powder in case you don't like swallowing capsules, or if you're a kid or if you have a kid, sometimes you just mix this in with a powder. This has, I'm looking for the probiotic and I can't see it. Oh, I'm sorry, this is prebiotic. So I'll talk about that in a second. The two probiotics I rely on, well, this one for sure, Saccharomyces. I did a video on this yeast product, very good for decreasing NK, natural killer, and IL-6, those are cytokines. And then this is one that's kind of pricey. So this has 15 billion CFU, 15 billion CFU, and then a wide variety of different bacteria that are found in the capsule. Tiny capsule too. I probably should do an unboxing of this. So my usual, at this point in time, to make it easy for all my patients, I usually suggest if you're gonna go shopping, you find something with at least 4 different bacterias, Bifidobacter, and well, that's what usually goes, and acidophilus. That's what usually happens, unless you get 2 bifidos, 1 acidophilus, and 1 Saccharomyces, but 4 different bacteria, at least 4 billion. I know this says more than that, but 4 billion, and then refrigerated, and less than 30 bucks. So, if that makes sense, that's easy to remember. 4 bacteria, 4 billion CFU, $30 or less, and refrigerated. That's my usual. This one's supposed to be refrigerated. I've been here for a couple hours, so hopefully nothing is dying. So these two are probiotic. This is a prebiotic. I'm sorry, I have this in the office here. So this is just for demonstration. I don't need this, but this is a prebiotic. And here's the concept of a prebiotic, which is another question that Francesco came up with. Do I have to take it with the meal? Do I have to take it with anything? And yes, you're supposed to take a probiotic outside of a meal, because theoretically the meal will kick up more acid. More acid means you're going to kill more. So probiotic an hour before or 2 hours after the meal. Now, I know it's a deal breaker for a lot of people. I try my best. Try your best. That's why if you're going to spend, this was kind of pricey. If you're going to spend like $100 on a probiotic, there are some probiotics that are that pricey. I don't know. You can't guarantee you'll get through, because everybody's digestive system is different. And some people will even take acid blockers and screw everything up, like pantoprazole, omeprazole, Prilosec. So all those things will change around the gut flora, change around the acid. And so if you need it, you need it. But if you're just using it because you're abusing tobacco, tomato, spicy food, alcohol, coffee, stop that stuff and get off the pill instead of taking the pill so you can tolerate the stuff. So that's your stomach telling you there's something wrong. So anyway, back to the prebiotics. So if you have a gut lining, and I guess this feeds off of you folks that are using those acid blockers, if you have a gut lining that's a 27-foot tube, and the tube has to be figuring out what, it works as a filter. So if you eat something, it comes down the pipe, and it's supposed to go through the small intestine, get into the bloodstream, and whisk away into where it's used as fuel. Well, you have to have, that filter has to be picky. Otherwise, you'll have parasites down here that'll also enter into the system. You have mercury that enters into the system. Check out my leaky gut number 3, and I have an actual picture of it. My illustration. So you'll see how the zonula works, and how if you have a leaky gut, there is no filter. The filter's screwed up, because what you have to have is essentially a filter that's called villi. They're called microvilli. They sit like this, a whole bunch of them, a whole field of little fingers, and the food and the liquid comes right through the fingers, and the fingers or the villi absorb everything that's useful into the blood, and they keep everything that's not useful into the stool to go into the colon and out. So that's the way it usually works. The only problem is the filter, like I was talking about, the little fingers that come down, they have to have a slimy coat. If they don't have a slimy coat, then they're going to be irritated. And the slimy coat is where these guys live. So if you have no slimy coat, there's no guys. Only the baddest of the bad, and you don't want that. So that's your prebiotic. Now, I just had a salad, but the prebiotic will usually work if you have fiber. Fiber is usually what makes the sliminess, and it's what feeds these guys and also gives housing to these guys. So I think in my previous leaky gut number 2, I mentioned acacia. I used to take a lot of psyllium when I was first starting here. I had a cholesterol issue, but I changed over to vegetarianism, now veganism, and I don't really need this anymore, but I still have this powder. I used to take psyllium or this every morning, sometimes every night, but that would, when it gets into your guts, it acts as something slippery, and it lines the tube. It lines that tube so that the bacteria will stick into that lining, and you'll have a thick, mucousy, slippery lining of bacteria to neutralize all the crap that's coming through. Technically, it is crap, but neutralize all the fuel that's coming through there. So the immune system and the lining of the small intestine is just full of bacteria. I mean, it's full of bacteria, but it's also full of white blood cells. In fact, the majority, 40% to 60% in some papers, have said that the majority of the immune system in the whole body is in the small intestine, because that's the biggest fight. Outside, you have skin, it'll protect from entry. Mouth, you got tonsils, lymph nodes, you got filters in the nose. But in the gut, which is a long tube, you have to have an army, and the army will be there. It usually is docile. It's like the reserves, it's waiting for a fight. But when there's no mucousy lining, and there's wrong bacteria, and there's constant irritation, that army's on fire. Thus, the reason why usually with autoimmune disease, there's always going to be a leaky gut side effect. And that usually in a lot of my communities, the leaky gut usually leads to, or at least the poorly inhabited microbiome, the bacteria in the leaky gut, it leads to autoimmune disease, leads to depression, leads to anxiety, leads to heart disease, leads to inflammation. So I think a lot of that, if you look at the work of Terry Walls, definitely. If you look at the work of this guy, Stephen Gundry, he definitely believes in that. So I think that it is important to have a healthy small intestine and colon. There's an Eddie Murphy movie, Coming to America, and he kept on saying, the key to life is a healthy colon. And I forget, he was imitating somebody, but it's old school, anecdotal. You don't have to have a billion-dollar study to tell you it's healthy. I mean, it's nice to have the data, but this is old school, this is new school. But bottom line is that we have enough information that says we have to have some bacteria in our gut. There's nice studies with mice that show that if you take the stool from a fat mouse and put it into a skinny mouse, the skinny mouse becomes fat. And vice versa, if you have a skinny mouse, put the stool from a skinny mouse into a fat mouse, the fat mouse becomes skinny. So there's something about the microbiome of the healthy animal that will influence the other unhealthy animal. And it always has to be that way. The healthy will always have to take care of the unhealthy, even if it means giving up your poop. So I will gladly give my poop to anybody that wants it that's unhealthy. But honestly, if you eat healthy, if you exercise, if you practice meditation, if you sleep deep, you should be able to get your own, you don't need my poop. So now the prebiotics I suggest, here's one, but it doesn't really, it lines more of the stomach, it helps a little bit with the small intestine. DGL, chewable DGL is more for acid, gastritis, irritation of the stomach, or H. pylori. You chew this, you mix it in with saliva, and about 5 minutes later, then you can eat your food. But my two biggies are both from Nature's Way, marshmallow root or slippery elm. And this does not smell like marshmallows, but it comes from the plant that usually is supposed to be made, or the ingredients to the marshmallow. But both of these things, when you leave these in water, they're capsules, and you take them with, I usually say if my patients are trying to build up a lining, I've talked about these two before, trying to build up a lining of slipperiness to make a house for the probiotic. Again, these are prebiotics. You want to take it with your food. So there are some people that say take it after a meal. Some people that say take it an hour. I wouldn't take it an hour before. I take it with your food. So that means the food bolus will have a mixed in amount of slime. And every time a food bolus goes down into the gullet, into the small intestine, it'll bring with it slime. And that's what the probiotic needs, is slime. Some of you who have problems with digestion because the pancreas isn't working right, you can also take digestive enzymes. There's no problems with digestive enzymes being used in addition to the prebiotics and probiotics, because if you suffer from gut irritation, small intestinal permeability issues, also known as leaky gut, IBS, IBD, colitis, Crohn's disease, I think that all these things would benefit from taking care of inflammation. The first step might be using an enzyme, digestive enzyme, to essentially digest your food so that the gut doesn't have to work so much. If you pre-chew your food, then the gut can absorb all the nutrients. If you can't do that, if you can't pre-chew because you don't have any teeth, and you can't digest because you don't have any enzymes, just take these. Take these with your meals, and then get the prebiotics. So this is the timing. Take the enzymes, make sure you tolerate them okay. If you do okay with them for up to 7 days, then you can add the prebiotics. Your choice, one or the other. I wouldn't do both. If you happen to have a stomach problem, you definitely want to add this too. And then after that's another 7 days, if you do okay with the enzymes with your meal, and then the prebiotic with your meal after that, then you can add in the big guys. So the probiotics. Hopefully that'll be enough. I sometimes wait a little bit to make sure you don't have any side effects to these innocent medicines. Well, technically they're herbal medicines, but you have to make sure you don't have any side effects, because those of you with leaky gut, usually because the zonula or the gut tight junction, and check out my video, leaky gut number 3, the tight junction is destroyed, so anything that you eat gets into the bloodstream and it manifests as an autoimmune reaction. So most people that say, I take a Benadryl and I get hyper, which is the opposite, or I take an Advil, I get more pain, or I take prescription medicine, I get all the side effects. Well, when I hear that, it usually means that every bit of medicine, tablet, capsule, syrup is going right into the bloodstream. Usually the formula for those things, prescriptions, are made so that with the understanding that some of it will leave in the poop, and it'll be difficult to get a lot of it into the bloodstream. But when you just allow the entire capsule to get in, then you're going to have all the side effects. And not only will it get into the bloodstream and affect all the organs, it'll also get into the brain, because the tight junctions that keep the small intestine closed are also the same tight junctions that keep the brain closed. And technically, they're also the same tight junctions that keep all capillaries closed. So this leaky gut, leaky brain, or a brain fog issue, or the autoimmune issue, I think it all has to do with the same thing, where the colon and the small intestine are the generator of inflammation. So if you can cool them down, again, key to life is a healthy colon. If you can cool all that stuff down, then you might be able to take care of your disease process. And that's where I'm going to leave this off with. I did nothing personal. I never really liked listening to Gundry, and I finally bought the book. I saw his infomercials. I bought the book, and the book's pretty good. It's easy to follow, versus me telling somebody, okay, just stop all gluten. It's so hard because you're on your own. But here you have your own template, and if you follow the template, really easy. And I showed this before. This is the information that you can get on just maybe getting off of some of the plant-based stuff that he suggests. And if you get off the irritants that are in his list of things to avoid, usually the diseases, the colon will go under less inflammation. He has a story there where his ANA he reversed his ANA in 2 weeks. ANA is a blood marker that looks for lupus or autoimmune disease. Usually when you have that, that's it. You have that disease, it's popping up in the bloodstream, you have to get on big medicines. He claims he had a positive ANA. He claims that getting on his diet for 2 weeks, he did the blood test again. I love self-experimenters like myself. He did the blood test again, and his ANA went negative. And then later on, he introduced bad food again and went positive. And then again, 2 more weeks on his diet, it went negative. So in his anecdotal story, there is something that has to do with food and inflammatory reaction or autoimmune reaction. And I think it's really obvious. I mean, the bloat, the headache, the uneasy feeling you get with eating too much. If I have ice cream or pizza, I know I can't have that anymore. I used to love it. I used to eat gallons of it. I remember watching Three Stooges and eating like a half gallon of vanilla bean ice cream. Can't do it anymore. So I think there are, and he also mentions how American cheese from American cows is not healthy. And that's one of the reasons why, again, going back to what I give my son, I don't like people taking dairy. So two reasons to say to Francesco, no on the yogurt, or thumbs down on the yogurt, is number one, it's dairy. And it's from the American cows mostly, unless you get stuff that's imported. Maybe that's okay. Number two, it only has like 70,000 bacteria versus 3 billion, 15 billion. So you can make the choice there, and these things cost like $1 each. This costs $35 for almost, what's this, 90? It's 40. So if I take one every day, it's 2 months. $35, 2 months. How much is this? $1, $1.50, $2, I think. So if I get 30, that's $60. So this is half the price, and this has got like how many times 70,000 versus 15 billion. You math guys can figure that one out. Obviously, this is the heads-up winner. So if you want to do yogurt because you like the flavor, fine. Do dairy-free yogurt. But if you're going to do a probiotic, do the probiotic I suggest. Hopefully, this gives you a little bit of an idea of what to do. And also, if you're building up your colon and your small intestine, nix the spicy food, nix the tomato, nix the alcohol, take it easy with the coffee bean. All those things are irritants, and they sometimes will hurt your progress. So hopefully this gives you a couple ideas. If you have your own probiotic, I'd love to hear what you guys take for probiotics, because there's a billion of them. I'll put them down below, or